everybody. Okay, so today we are talking about sexually transmitted diseases. Fun, right? This is exactly what you tuned in for. So, let's go ahead and get started. Um, so I want to start with a video. I don't know if I can show it here or if you're gonna have to. Maybe I can show it here. Okay, yay. I didn't mean for this to be as awkward as it is. Okay. So yes, that was the video. I know. Basically, the point is, yes, we are talking about sex. We're talking about uh, intimacy in weird situations, and it's important to wear a condom. Okay, very important to wear a condom. So we're talking mainly today about STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. But a lot of what we're like when we're talking about like the importance of wearing condoms, condoms are also really important for preventing pregnancy. So when we're talking about ways to like prevent pregnancy and prevent STDs, the one thing that sort of unites them is condoms. They work for both. Okay, so that's why they're cool and effective. So when we're talking about STDs, we're talking about an infection that can be passed onto another person during vaginal, anal, or oral sex. There are about 30 bacteria, viruses, or parasites that can cause STDs. Eight are incredibly common, and they cause most of the STDs that we're familiar with. So chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis are all bacteria-based. Parasites, we have trichomoniasis that causes trichomoniasis. We have genital herpes, Hep B, HIV, and HPV, all of which are viruses. So your body keeps germs out through your skin and your mucous membranes. So the skin is obviously like your skin. Mucous membranes are places like your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your throat, genitals. Basically, a place where your body is exposed to the outside world, and it has like an opening, if you will. So that basically the mucous membranes are like thin, moist, like areas of skin. It Because the skin is thinner, your body needs to protect itself better in that area, so that's where you produce like some kind of thing, like in your eyes water, right? So that liquid that your eyes produce, the salty liquid, is the point is to prevent your eyes from drying out, but it also kills germs and it protects you from infection. Just like your mouth has saliva or your nose like has mucus, your genitals have like, you know, liquidy stuff, right? Even your skin has sweat glands, which basically prevent your like body like germs from entering through your like pits and stuff like that. So the mucous membranes are thinner, they are more vulnerable. So when microbes get in, they can get you sick. So all of those areas, the mouth, the throat, penis, vagina, urethra, and rectum, are all involved in sex. And that actually makes you vulnerable, okay? Because these are areas where germs can get in. And mucous membranes are great, they're there to protect you, but there's also a limit to what your mucous membranes can do. Like, the reason why we get sick is because most of those areas don't 100% protect you from those germs. So STDs don't often cause any signs or symptoms. That's really the reason why they're so difficult to protect from, because you don't know if you're sick or not. You don't know if you're infected. And if you do get symptoms, they're usually things like, itching, general irritation, burning when you pee, rash or sores around your genitals, unusual bleeding that's not associated with menstruation. That's for women. Pain and swelling in the testicles for men. Abnormal discharge from your genital area. So um, these, like, if you do get symptoms, you might get some of these, and that might be an indication that you have an STD. Um, but STDs don't often cause those signs or symptoms, so it's really difficult to know if you have an STD or not. Um, just a couple of things, like, yeah, sometimes your groin can itch. That doesn't necessarily mean you have an STD, but if you get it like frequently, or you're sexually active and you're getting these things, that might be something to get checked. Okay, especially if you're having unprotected sex. If you're having protected sex, like, you every time you have sex you use a condom, then you're generally okay. I mean, if you're getting these kinds of things, you might just want to check with your doctor just in case. But yeah, okay, just be cautious and use your brain. Okay. So the consequences of STDs. Untreated STDs can persist for years. They can cause severe and potentially life-threatening health problems, including death. Okay, like syphilis, for example, can eat away at your brain if you have it long enough. Like it will literally eat your brain, and you will lose like brain tissue and brain matter if you don't treat syphilis. So it's like bad. Okay, I'll show you some pictures a little later on, and it's kind of gnarly. So chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, and trichomoniasis can make you sterile if you don't treat it. This is whether you're a dude or a woman. Women actually suffer more severely from STDs typically. 40% of women with untreated chlamydia and gonorrhea develop pelvic inflammatory disease, and 25%, so like 1 out of 4, become infertile with chlamydia or gonorrhea. If you're already pregnant, that disease can then pass on to your baby, and it can cause premature birth, stillbirth, and blindness. So STDs are no joke. They are really serious, and you need to protect yourself from them. Um, herpes is the so herpes is like a STD where it keeps coming back. Okay, it's the STD that keeps on giving. So basically, like you get it the first time, and that first episode is usually the worst. And then people often get flare ups every now and again for like years. Okay, and every time it comes back, it keeps like causing problems. Hep B can cause flu-like symptoms a few weeks after infection. Now, most people recover from Hep B and they actually like their body fights it off. They get kind of cured because their body fights it. Okay, it's just like anything else. But in 1 out of 10 people infected with Hep B will actually develop a chronic version that progressively damages the liver. Like they get nausea, vomiting. Jaundice is where your eyes turn yellow and your skin gets a yellow color. It basically means that your liver is failing and your liver's not processing like stuff, like drink alcohol or drugs well. It's basically a sign that your liver's failing, and that's not good. It's basically that's death. If your liver doesn't get fixed, so immediately go to a doctor. If you look at your eye, like the white of your eyes, and in fact it's yellow, that's not good. Okay, and sometimes Hep B can develop into liver cancer. My uncle died of liver cancer because of Hep B. Okay, he got Hep B when he was young, and later on died from stage 4 liver cancer. So it is possible. It does happen to people, and it's not a good thing. So definitely, like, it's better to prevent Hep B in the first place than risk getting that. HIV/AIDS is there for life. So once you have HIV, there's not really a way to cure it. There have been a couple studies or a couple people that have been cured from HIV, but in those cases it was like a really severe, like they also had cancer as well as HIV, and so they had like a stem cell transplant where they wipe out the person's immune system and then implant them with like the immune system of somebody who can't get HIV because they're immune to it or something, and then they like became cured of HIV. But like that's a really risky procedure, and it's not something that is practical for people who develop HIV. So HIV is just something where you want to avoid getting it to begin with because it's there for your life. Within 10 to 12 years, usually the first 10 to 12 years, people live with HIV without symptoms for the most part. But then after 10 to 12 years, HIV develops into AIDS. And AIDS destroys the immune system. It kills all of the T cells and stuff that protect your body, which means that your body can't fight off infections. And usually, like, that kills people within 4 to 5 years. Um, so unfortunately, the AIDS epidemic has been a really big problem. It's still really prevalent today. As you can see from the political cartoon, it is like extremely prevalent in Africa. So many people are dying from it. Everybody's like planning and preparing for like big pandemics like we got going on right now, and nobody really is paying attention to AIDS. AIDS is like a huge epidemic, particularly in Africa. And so it's killing a lot of people. And as you learned from like last unit and Schufeld's last unit about HIV, like it came about like it was a really big thing during the gay rights movement because a lot of gay men in particular, but gay people, not gay people, were dying from HIV/AIDS, and so it's been a really big thing. Now there are a lot of antivirals which help people like live longer, but it's still a big problem. So some another thing that we talk about is HPV. This comes in many different forms. So if you're a woman, HPV can cause changes to your cervix that can actually lead to cervical cancer. And then other forms of HPV cause genital warts or anal cancer. So HPV is serious just because it can lead to cancer. If cervical cancer signs are like vaginal bleeding, discharged pelvic pain, stuff like that. Not good. Genital warts are actually small gray colored swellings that look like cauliflower that would appear around your genitals or in your genitals or around your mouth or your throat if you do oral sex a lot. They're not fun and they look nasty and ain't nobody want to be touching you with that. So the nice thing about HPV, not the nice thing, but there is a vaccine for HPV. And so you can get it. It's available for boys and girls. You can get it and then you don't have to worry about HPV like ever. So it's great. Um, so what puts you at risk of an STD? You're at risk if you're sexually intimate with your partner or partners when they have genital sores, a rash, a discharge, or if they mention that they have symptoms of STDs. Say, oh, last month I was kind of experiencing like an itchy sensation down there, or like it burned when I peed. That's probably not a good thing. So do not have sexual intercourse with that person, okay? Make sure they get tested and they get antibiotics and they take care of it before you have sex with them. Okay. It's common to have an STD but you don't have symptoms. So they may have it and they don't know, and you won't be able to tell because you can't just look at them and tell. Um, Unprotected sex puts you at risk of an STD. So, if somebody has an STD, like don't have sex with them, but if you're not sure if they have an STD, use a condom because at least you're protecting yourself from getting an STD. Okay, having an STD can make it more likely that you could get HIV. Like, for example, people who have syphilis have are 3 times more likely to catch HIV because it weakens your immune system, and therefore your immune system can't protect you from HIV as easily. Um, every day, about 1 million people get an STD. Males and females have equal chances. About half of those infections, so 500,000, are chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, and trichomoniasis. All of those are very treatable and can be cured. More than 500 million people have herpes. Almost 3 million people in the world have 3 million women in the world have HPV. And you're more likely to get an STD if you're sexually active and under the age of 25 years old. So it's really just best to assume that you could get infected whenever you have unprotected sex. So just have protected sex. Okay, simple enough. So these are the cases of sexually transmitted infections in millions. So there's like 126 million in the US, 93 million in Africa, 47 million in Asia and Europe, 128 million in like China, 79 million in India, 26 million in the like Middle East area. And Australia, I don't know. There wasn't any number for them. I'm sure they have them too, though. So, how can you prevent an STD? Big thing is use a condom. Unless you're sure that you and your partner have only ever had sex with each other and that you tested negative for STDs and nobody's straying, nobody's like having sex with other people, just use a condom, okay? I know it doesn't feel the same. I know that like guys don't like it, but it's better to protect yourself than risk like getting sick for the rest of your life, like screwing up the rest of your life because you didn't want to wear a condom for 15 seconds. Like, come on, okay? Um, so the other thing that I just want to make sure that y'all are aware in case you don't know, like condoms of course are for like the genital regions, but like there are like dams that you can get, like plastic things like that you can put in your mouth. So if you're doing like oral sex or something like that, it could be like it, I mean, it would catch the stuff and like it kind of protects your mouth and keeps your mouth like from getting exposed to that sort of thing. Or if you're like giving oral sex to your partner and they're wearing a condom, like that's another way to do it. So just like even this includes like wear a condom even if you're doing oral sex or any kind of thing where your like body is being exposed. If you're doing hand jobs, wash your hands before you touch your face or your mouth, okay? Just, simple enough, right? So just make sure that whenever you're exposed to somebody else's genitals or mouth region that you're protecting yourself. If somebody has sores on